Hey everybody, it's Kathy. Welcome to episode 23 of Mondays on the Mat. I'm coming to you live from my office/yoga room. And today's question comes from Stacy, who wants to know if there is a yoga/serotonin connection, if there's some connection of yoga increasing our serotonin levels. And so as we dive into this topic today, just a reminder, if you have questions or comments, please join the conversation by adding them down here in the comment bar so that we can really go as deep into this topic as is interesting to you. And if you post those comments later after the live feed, as always, I'll come back in and answer them in the comments as well. Or maybe even turn your question into an upcoming episode of Mondays on the Mat. So be sure to jump in and join me here. So getting to this question of the yoga serotonin connection is the whole reason I ended up skipping the live episode last week. I got kind of nerdy just like not even 2-3 minutes ago, and I went over to my bookshelf, which here, quick, okay, and you'll see my co-star Agnes over here. So over there on my bookshelf, there are, I counted, 40 books on yoga and 5 binders, like 2-inch binders, full of notes and other material about yoga. And none of them address this question or just curiosity about that brain-based connection. And really, what I had to do was go and research more of this science-based information, because it's really only been in about the last 5 years that any sort of data is coming out about the effects of yoga, and really in a way that's published and accessible for us. So the whole question came up in relationship to a runner's high, and how runner's high creates a certain positive feeling in the body, and yoga also creates a positive feeling in the body, but they aren't quite exactly the same. So if we look at exercise science, what we know about a runner's high is that it is when your endorphins kick in, and those prevent pain. So the reason why runners or other endurance athletes feel so amazing afterwards is because their body is full of endorphins and they're not feeling any potential pain that those activities could have caused. So it's possible, now this isn't science-based, and so I'm just postulating the relationship to help with the question. It's possible, depending on the type of yoga you're practicing, that you might be crossing into the territory of increased endorphins if you're doing sort of a really rhythmic, sustained, cardiovascular type of practice, something we might think of as vinyasa or more flowing, or some people would call it power, something like that, to where at some point the endorphins kick in. I notice in myself and in my students, sometimes like the first downward facing dog, the first set of standing poses, they feel like so difficult and hard and uncomfortable, and then all of a sudden at some point in the practice they feel really good and they feel really fluid and they feel really sustainable. It's possible that that is similar to what's happening with the runner's high, that some endorphins have kicked in, but like I said, we haven't seen this proved with science yet. So the next part of it is that we do know, science has shown, that yoga decreases cortisol. So cortisol is a stress hormone, and it's a natural and good stress hormone when you need it. The problem is most of us are walking around with this elevated level of cortisol because we're under chronic stress. And the effects of chronically elevated cortisol in the system, I had to write this down, the list was so long, check it out. Increased elevated chronic cortisol will result in depression and or anxiety, fatigue, weight gain, back pain, thin skin, decreased concentration, swelling in the hands and feet, lower sex drive, insomnia, irritability, menstrual problems, high blood pressure, digestive problems, to name some. And so obviously that doesn't mean all of these symptoms are going to present themselves in a particular individual, but they are all indicators of chronic elevated cortisol. So we know that yoga decreases cortisol, which means it's going to decrease all of those uncomfortable symptoms, and we're going to feel better. Oh, it's one of the things I love about yoga. It just makes you feel better, even if we don't know exactly why. Again, because the research is really young, and there's a lot of moving parts with yoga, which is going to slide me into the next part, which is the serotonin. So there has been some research that shows that yes, yoga increases serotonin. Serotonin is what I think of as one of our feel-good hormones, and it's sort of like a slow burn hormone. Like it's sort of one of those, like it builds up over time with our relationship to a person or an experience. But they don't know how it works. So for example, say you do a really deep back bend. They do know that in a deep back bend, you're breathing into the lower parts of your lungs, which generally most of us breathe into the upper third or half of our lungs throughout the day. So breathing all the way down into the lungs, you're getting that greater exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. That big back bend is going to open up the whole front body, stretch the neck, throat, and chest, as well as the frontal hip flexors, which are generally chronically in a state of flexion. It also requires a deep amount of concentration and some sort of mental focus. And so because there's all of these individual aspects, it's really hard to know, is it one of them? Is it all of them together? But yes, yoga does increase serotonin, and that's great news. Most of us could probably use a little more serotonin. Another thing that science has shown is that yoga increases vagal tone. So I know that sounds a little bit like your lady bits, but it's not. So you have a nerve called the vagus nerve, and it's really thick. It's like as thick as my thumb. I'm small, so it's about as thick as my thumb. And it runs through your entire body, and it touches all of your major organs. When you have a stress response, the sympathetic fight or flight response, you trigger your body. And vagal tone is how quickly your body can return into the parasympathetic rest and digest homeostasis. There's nothing wrong with a stress response. We need it. But what we also need is, once the stressor is gone, to return to the parasympathetic inner peace, calm state of being. And the faster you do that is called vagal tone. And science has proven that yoga increases your vagal tone. That means you're going to move quicker from a stress response to a relaxed response. And so then again, therefore, feelings of well-being and inner peace and calm are elevated. So that's science for sure. I'm going to postulate again that I think potentially there could be some hits of dopamine depending on, again, what type of yoga you practice. So dopamine is sort of your like reward hormone when you win a prize, when you get a text, when something positive happens. And in yoga, that could be the first time you touch your toes, or the first time you do a handstand, or a pose that you've been working on for a really long time all of a sudden unlocks and becomes simple. It's possible. I'm just guessing through my 21 years of experience with yoga and 11 years of teaching that sometimes happens. And again, that feels good. That's a feel-good hormone. And I'm also going to postulate on oxytocin, which is the love hormone or like relationship hormone. So if you go to class regularly with a group of people, you might get a little bit of an elevated state of oxytocin from seeing people that you have a relationships with, that you have a shared common interest with, and you get happy to see them. If you have a teacher that you regularly practice with, the same thing. You might be just glad to be in their presence and ready to learn what they have to teach that day. So those aren't proven. Again, those are just my postulations from experience. And that's really the big thing, guys, is yoga is thousands of years old, and there hasn't been any science to back it up, but it works. And the only way you're going to know it works is if you get on your mat and do yoga. It's experiential. That means in order to know that something, or that yoga works, not anything, but that yoga works, you have to do it for a period of time with a period of regularity in order to see those effects and know that they're true in your own life. And this is where I feel like, we're such a mind-based society, or a lot of us are like, I need to see it and believe it and understand it in order for it to be true. And we've sort of lost a little bit of our ability to embrace the mystery. Our bodies are mysterious. The energy in the world around us is mysterious. Who knows? Really, who knows why? But I can just tell you that miraculous things can happen when you practice yoga for a really long time. And I'll just close with a little bit of an example of my own life, because again, yoga is experiential. And so the only thing that I can teach you from is my experiences and understanding of it. So I'm sharing a story with you about myself to illustrate the vast potential that yoga has, just to give you a deeper understanding of anecdotal proof. Since we don't have scientific proof, what we do have is anecdotal proof. So if you were to look at my genetics in the form of my immediate family and through some of my own life experiences, you would see obesity, depression, high blood pressure, chronic asthma and bronchitis, osteoporosis, alcoholism. I haven't thought about this in a little while. A kind of a litany. Crohn's disease, diverticulitis. Again, this is like immediate family, like parents, grandparents, sibling, not any further out than that. And when I was 25, I was diagnosed as pre-arthritic. I've experienced high levels of anxiety and panic attacks, and I couldn't look people in the eye and have an adult conversation without wanting to burst into tears. I couldn't speak publicly without wanting to cry or actually cry or completely lose my ability to speak. What else? Oh, goodness. I've been tested for hyperthyroidism because my heart rate and blood pressure could be constantly elevated due to anxiety. And over time and with the practice of yoga, all of my vital signs are normal as far as heart rate, blood pressure, cholesterol, all of those good things are 100% normal. I have no indications of any type of arthritis in any of my joints anymore. The last time I experienced panic was probably 2 years ago or 3 years. It's been a really long time since I've had a panic attack because I deliberately and mindfully practice some yoga that helps mitigate and alleviate panic. Occasionally anxiety arises, but I do again go right back to yoga and squash it. And so I haven't really been experiencing chronic anxiety for probably like 1.5 to 2 years. And this is all from practicing yoga. It is not because I was blessed with awesome genes. It's 100% attributed to yoga. I maintain a healthy weight without any effort, and that's not something that runs in my family. Weight problems definitely are a big indicator in my immediate family. So all of this, 100%, is yoga. And if you were to say, well, why? I don't know. I don't know why. I just know that it does. So that was sort of, and so for me, I'm going to back up 1 second. For me, for a very long time, I would say, I don't know how yoga works, but I know that it works, and I'm never going to stop doing it. Even now, as some science is coming out, yes, it reduces cortisol. Yes, it increases serotonin. Yes, it increases vagal tone. There's still so much mystery surrounding it that the only thing you can do is get on your mat, find a teacher, find an online class, and do yoga regularly, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, with some consistency. And you'll start to see and feel for yourself that even though science doesn't 100% have all of the answers, yoga really works. I don't think it would have been around for thousands of years and embraced in the way that it's being embraced now if it didn't. So kind of a long-winded and winding answer for you there today, Stacy. Yes, there is a yoga serotonin connection. No, we don't have all the answers. And yes, I still think yoga is super awesome. And there's so much more. Oh my gosh, there's so much more we could talk about. But I think that's a pretty neat package for today. I'm kind of thinking like maybe we should dive into the mystery a little bit deeper, but today's question was more of a science-based question, so I lingered with that. But yeah, if you guys are curious about the mystery a little bit more, please ask me either here over on my YouTube channel, search for Kathy Weiss channel over on YouTube, and you can ask me questions there, and of course always live in class, and we can unravel this conversation and go a little bit deeper if that's the direction you guys want to head. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a new month, August, coming up tomorrow, and we're gonna do some summer fun poses. While it's still really hot and juicy, we're just gonna play on our mats this month with things like Hanumanasana, splits, Dragonfly, which is kind of a groovy arm balance, a thing I call dancer plank, which is like side plank mixed with dancer pose, and just kind of all of these lighthearted ways of moving our body that take advantage of the summer sun. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in class this week, Tuesday 6:30 to 8, Wednesday 5:30 to 7, Friday 9:30 to 11, and Saturday 9 to 10:30 a.m. And starting mid-August, I will have room for one new private ongoing session. So if you'd like private lessons to work at your own pace, please be sure to contact me over there at kathyweissyoga.com, and we'll get you all set up. Have a beautiful rest of your Monday, and I look forward to seeing you next time live on Mondays on the Mat. Namaste.